Do you plan to buy any real estate after March the 1st, 2026? Well, if you're a real estate investor and you do plan to buy real estate during that period or after, then you need to stay tuned to this special edition of this Never Lose a Deal podcast. Well, that is why I'm here today. I just had to share this news. Like I said, this is a special edition. And the reason why it's a special edition is because of the shakeup that has actually happened or is going to happen in the real estate industry. Now, if you're a real estate investor who takes part in transactions using your LLC or your trust or any other type of corporate entity, then you need to be very aware of what is happening, especially if you do transactions that are non-financed. And non-finance transactions are transactions that are done with cash. Now this ruling has um just been put out by FinCEN. If you don't know what FinCEN is part of the federal government's Corporate Transparency Act. FinCEN stands for the Financial, let me get it right, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And pretty much this area of the government all has to do with anti-money laundering, like I said, corporate transparency. And so these changes that just came really upon my eyes today, but it will take place in, as I look at the calendar, in almost another week. And so what that means is that if you're a real estate investor, and like I said, and you buy real estate and you use entities such as LLCs, trust, or any type of entity, this is something that may affect you. Now, one may ask, because someone did say on a post that when I posted this on my social media, well, what happens if I, the investor, decide not to report it? Because with this new Transparency Act that has been created for real estate transactions, keep in mind it's only for residential 1 to 4 unit real estate transactions. That also includes land. It does not mean for individuals. So of course, if you buy those things in your own name, it doesn't affect you. But if you use some type of entity, it will affect you. So going back to what the person had asked me, well, what about if I don't report it? Well, understand you are going to get fined by the federal government. The attorney who's part of the transaction is going to get fined. The title company is going to get fined, and you, who is a part of that entity, is going to be fined. So understand, you may want to fall under the radar, but I don't think the attorney or the title company that you're working with will be interested in going under the radar by not reporting it, because all those parties are part of the transaction, and so they have to report it. But I do kind of want to go over some of the things, and I am reading, and so some of the things that I've read in the FinCEN report. Like I said, you can, do your own due diligence and look. So it says the rule applies to non-finance, typically all cash transfers of U.S. residential real estate where the purchaser is a legal entity or a trust. FinCEN focus is on transactions that may obscure the beneficial ownership through entity or trust ownership structures. So that is why I'm always a big advocate, as I read that to you, is go to the source. The internet is a great place where people just try to create narratives that really, at the end of the day, a lot of times are not related to the real world. And I've said this in other podcasts episodes that the real estate industry as we know it is going to change. Now, I don't know about you, but did you have this on your bingo card for 2026? I know I didn't, but understand it's almost like every week there is a new change in the industry of real estate, whether it relates to financing or not. So, like I said, this has to do with residential real estate, because, of course, there are investors who do invest in residential real estate. 1 to 4 units, land included, and you know your business entity guru may have told you, oh, if if you use trust, the beneficial ownership, the anonymity, cannot be exposed. Well, the government is saying even with trust, all that has to be reported. So like I said, it's a big shakeup. But of course, if you do things the straight and narrow, the right way, like I said, this does not affect the commercial industry. This really affects individuals, or should I say business entities, investors who the government is saying may be laundering money. So they want to have a paper trail of these transactions because real estate is a widely heavenly transaction area where a lot of money laundering has been taking place based on a lot of the information I have read online. Like I said, kind of went down a rabbit hole when it comes to money laundering in regards to real estate and cash transactions, non-finance. So normally on this podcast, I talk a lot about the investor financing, the commercial side, not really the residential. But although this ruling is affecting the residential side of real estate, but is primarily focusing on, like I said, legal entities that invest in that area. Now, if you were just a regular person and you are buying real estate, like I said, land, 1 to 4 unit dwellings, it doesn't affect you because they said individuals are exempt. If you're getting any type of financing, mortgages, or whatever, those individuals are exempt. But at the end of the day, there is some type of reporting done. I always say Big Brother is watching. There are still ways where people, where I should I say, where the government can trace. That's why I said don't buy into the narrative, especially here online, where people want you to believe that they got one up on, on the government, or they got one up on the bank, or they got one up on some type of financing institution. These changes is another reminder of, like I said, Big Brother is always watching. And let's see what is going to happen in the next, like I said, almost another week. We got days until March 1st, so pretty much another week. So once again, like I said, special edition of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. Want to be able to talk about this topic. I didn't want to wait to next week. And so I am really interested to see how this is going to pan out. Definitely, I could see in the next couple of months, a lot of attorneys are going to be able to go through all this information and give, their insight on this ruling. But of course, you know me, I'm a big advocate of go to the source, read it yourself, do a Google search, find it yourself, get an understanding, especially if you're a real estate investor, whether you take part in cash transactions or not. It's still good to know because you never know. One thing I always say here on the Never Lose a Deal podcast, a lot of times deals are done creatively, and many times cash is used for those type of deals. So at the end of the day, if you are an investor, even there may be still a way that you may get affected by this new ruling. So once again, this is Lorillia. As always, we're watching on YouTube. Please subscribe here on my channel. And if you're listening on one of the podcast streaming platforms, don't forget to rate it and I think on those, what do you do? I think you whatever you do on the podcasting platforms, make sure you're alerted to this podcast episode. So once again, it's Lorillia. See you.